How good is the Double Edge Sickle after the patch? How utterly cracked is the weapon when it's at AP4? How can you unleash its true potential with your armor, booster, and usage choices? I set out to explore these questions, and let me tell you folks, this Double Edge Sickle combination that I've been experimenting with is absolutely relentless when playing against any of the three factions that oppose democracy. With positional awareness and a desire to play aggressively and daringly, it tears through pretty much anything that our democracy-threatening adversaries can throw at us. I will break down exactly how you can set yourself up to be your team's aggressive frontline dominator while negating the self-damage mechanic that the Double Edge Sickle applies to us. If you enjoy the video, please do drop the video a like and sub to the channel to keep informed. Now, let's get into it. Now, there's been a lot of heated debate as to whether the changes that were received today to this weapon are a nerf or a buff, and having played this setup both before the patch today and after, I feel like I'm in quite a good position to make comment. In a nutshell, Arrowhead have stated they want to nail the risk versus reward balance of the weapon whilst making sure that it feels like a powerhouse and keeping sure that the damage actually reflects its high risk nature, and they felt it was lacking in both areas before, so this is what they've changed. Essentially, at low heat, which is 0 to 25%, it now uses AP2 instead of AP3, still doing 55 damage with no self damage. At the mid-range heat, the 26 to 50% mark, it stays the same, but it's AP3, 55 damage and 10 damage per second to yourself. Now, at higher heat, 51 to 90%, we get a boost to 70 damage, but the self damage has also increased to 20 per second. And folks, at maximum heat, which is 91% plus, this is now AP4, 70 damage with the same 70 damage per second and fire effect. They've also given some ammo tweaks. Starting mags go from 1 to 2 and spare mags go from 2 to 3, making it less punishing to reload and really takes the pressure off when you're trying to reset the heat and stop that self-damage once you've set on fire. Essentially what has happened here, folks, is the low end of this weapon now feels noticeably less punchy compared to what it was like at the weekend, but in return this thing now has become pretty damn monstrous when it gets that juicy, tasty AP4 higher level of damage at that upper 91% plus heat level, with the obvious caveat that the self-damage it inflicts is very close to that threshold, and I will explain in a moment how to effectively negate this damage. But first, it's important to note that this weapon absolutely puts in work against all factions, and I've got some key takeaways after running it through its paces. Against bugs, it's completely trivializing brood commanders, stalkers, and hunters, especially once you hit that 51% plus heat threshold, and it even has the potential, ridiculously, to take down bile titans, although I wouldn't say this is an ideal approach. But still, when you've got a squad of 4 all slapping a titan in the face with this thing, it absolutely can do the job. It's very amusing, might I add. And once the weapon is fully ramped up, it shreds through charger weak spots. There's no damage fall off with this weapon. This is something that I don't think people realize. You can use this weapon at any range, and as long as you are landing your shots, there will be no penalty for how far away they are. Myself, Maple, CrazyMrPipz, and Thick took this setup out for a spin today, and where it really stood out was against bots. It rips, and I mean rips, through Devastators, especially if you focus on their weak spots. But the biggest standout was just how utterly ridiculously fast it can melt hulks if you land eye shots once it's reached that AP4 status. There was multiple moments during Pipz's stream where we just stood there in disbelief as the AP4 state kicked in and absolutely annihilated these massive tin cans. Yeah.
Come here, come to me.
With you.
There you go. Go for it.
Wow.
Yeah, I think I'd be down to try this with heavy metal.
That's insane.
That is absolutely nuts. It's a nightmare for gunships too. Pairing it with the right stratagems and secondary options in this setup will also allow you to make quick work of any gunship patrol in the sky. They will hate you folks, believe me. And against squids, its sheer volume of firepower is what makes it shine. It tears through shields and chaff and makes really quick work of watchers. And again, that lack of damage fall off means you can keep constant pressure on these types of enemies at distance, and it just makes your life much easier. There's also a really deadly combo you can pull off with Seeker grenades once you've punched through the shields on tripods. And I did notice though, this rework, due to the way it's now behaving at the lower heat stakes, does make it feel weaker overall, and that is particularly exacerbated against the squids. I just don't feel like like we've got as much punch against the tougher Illuminate enemies anymore. By using armor with the inflammable passive alongside the vitality booster, you can completely negate all self-damage from the Double Edge Sickle as it ramps up through its heat stages. The only exception is the final overheat state where you actually combust and catch fire, but even then, you can stim through it or call for a quick stim pistol assist from a friendly Helldiver to keep you going. This setup is especially clutch when you are in the middle of melting gunships, hulks, or other heavy targets and don't want to stop that throughput just because of a little bit of health drain. Now, I know some of the community see this as a bit of a gimmick, and I guess it is kind of, and not everybody is on board with it. Me personally, I love it. I've always been a fan of these kinds of interaction mechanics in games, and I think Arrowhead might actually be onto something big here. I feel like they could take this approach and encourage better use of the armor passives tied to different damage types. I think that would be really nice just to see them using these damage types a little bit more creatively, and this would in part open the door for more weapons with unique mechanics that require smart gear choices to maximize their effectiveness. And honestly, if I couldn't negate the self-damage with this weapon, I probably wouldn't use the Double Edge Sickle at all, but with the right gear, it becomes a really nice high-risk, high-reward beast. What do you think, folks? Do you love this interaction, or do you see it as a bit of a cheap trick? Sound off in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. In my opinion, one of the strongest loadouts you can run with this weapon currently includes the Quasar Cannon, everyone's favourite pocket nuke, the Ultimatum, a supply pack, and the Seeker grenades. The ammo economy and value that the supply pack brings, especially when paired with the Ultimatum pocket nuke and Seeker grenades, is absolutely insane. The sheer firepower from these three alone is enough to obliterate anything with ease, and right now, I feel like their synergy is top tier. It's one of my top pick loadouts for the whole game. That said, if you'd rather free up your backpack slot for something like the recoilless rifle, jetpack, or laser dog, that's completely understandable. So if you're actively out there seeking for points of interest to grab those extra ammo pickups, you can still keep that Ultimatum really well stocked, even though its overall economy has taken a big hit. I know a lot of people are pretty annoyed about that today as well, so again, let me know what your thoughts are on that. I've just been pairing this setup with something really simple, a Gatling barrage and the 500 kg bomb, and honestly, it has very few weaknesses except for when dealing with fabricators and bug holes, and even then, with a supply pack on your back, you can use your Ultimatum for a bit of overkill action, but it does get the job done. What do you think, folks? Have I missed anything out about this new powerhouse of a weapon, the Double Edge Sickle? Perhaps you've got some other loadout suggestions, or maybe you think Arrowhead have got this completely wrong. Do you have any other tips or tricks that you could share with fellow Helldivers? If so, sound off in the comments below. Check out this next video. It's got you covered. Take care of yourselves, keep having fun, come check out a stream on YouTube or Twitch, and I'll see you in the next one.